Okay. I'd like to call this meeting to order, the Budget Workshop meeting, April 26, 2021. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Adequate notice of this meeting was advertised in the Asbury Park Press and the Beacon on Thursday, April 15, 2021, and by posting a notice in the Forked River Post Office and the Lenoka Harbor Post Office, and by filing a copy of the notice with the Lacey Township Clerk as required by the Open Public Meeting Act. Mr. DeGeorge, may we have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Claus.
Here.
Mr. Scanlon.
Here.
Mr. Peters. Mrs. DeSenza.
Here.
Mrs. Downing.
Here.
Mr. Polino.
Present.
Mrs. McAvoy.
Present, thank you. At this time, Dr. Clark, do you have a superintendent report?
I do not.
Thank you. At this time, if any board members would like to have questions, comments, or discussion on the budget, and we'll do what we did last time, we'll go around, and if anybody wants to add. Mrs. Claus?
Just a question on the private school placement, 17. Is that for like our Catholic schools? For enrollments?
17.
17 students. So advertised enrollments.
What page, Mrs. Claus?
Oh,
Page one,
okay.
right in
I
the top.
gotcha. I
Thank
gotcha.
you.
You're talking enrollment, got it. Yes, that is mostly for non-public schools.
Okay. So then our special ed is an additional,
Yes.
okay, gotcha. That's all I have, thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. DeSenza?
None at this time.
Mr. Polino?
I'm good, thank you.
Mrs. Downing?
good.
Mr. Scanlon?
No comment.
Okay, and my comments were the same as last time. I think Mr. DeGeorge did a fine job of balancing the budget without us laying off any teachers or staff members or personnel, which was wonderful that he could balance the budget. And he took a lot of input from the board members throughout the process, I think through finance, and each committee got to discuss it. So I want to thank you and commend you for balancing the budget. Public comment. An audience member wishing to make a comment shall raise his or her hand, and when called upon, state their name, address, or affiliation, and intention to make a statement. Comment shall be limited to this agenda item only. Comment shall be addressed to the board president. Comment shall be made on one issue at a time. Comment shall be limited to 5 minutes. Would anyone please have comments? Anyone? Yay, please come up to the microphone and state your name.
Oh, the microphone's over here.
I know.
It's like home. All righty. Oh, we're on. Okay. My comment is, I admire the work that you have done. I recognize the amount of time that you've put into it. However, I'd like to just share one thing from a taxpayer's perspective. We moved from Wyckoff, New Jersey 7 years ago. Our taxes were $20,000. We moved here. We've been here the 7 years, and our taxes are reaching 50% of that number. And the most significant part of our local tax is the school board. Now, we're approaching 70%, if not we're already 70% of the school district budget represents 70% of the total tax bill. I would ask that you keep that in mind, otherwise all the attractiveness of the city goes down the tubes. I know it's difficult to do. I know that you're working on some new programs. Hopefully those programs will come to fruition. But we really have got to start to look at it from a taxpayer perspective, because the attractiveness of Lacey from the homeowner's perspective is diminished every time we raise the taxes, and particularly to the levels that there are. You know, we expect some increases here, there, and everywhere. And we also expect the best school district for the students. The primary business of this group here is to educate children, and that's primary. Everything else is, by the wayside. So it asks that when you work on budgets, a dollar here, a dollar there has a great impact. So I thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Before you go, could you just, even though we know who you are, please state
Yes.
your name and address?
My name is Ron Martin. My address is 44 Dunbury Drive.
Thank you. And Ron, yes, thank you, and we take your comments to heart. We appreciate you coming up to speak.
May I add something?
You, of course you may, Mr.
And I
Scanlon.
say this to Mr. Martin and to the other people in Seabreeze. In all seriousness, I don't say this facetiously, but you have a lot of experience out there, a lot of life experience and a lot of accounting experience, so on and so forth. It would be good if somebody from your area ran for the board. You probably would be a big help and a big, a positive thing for us to get the input and the value of your experience. We could play off of that, and it would.
I would respond to that in that for the last 5 years I've been on our board, and the last 6 years I've been attending these meetings. We send out every time there's a vacancy, every time there's an election for the school board, we send out, here's a great opportunity for you to put your background to use. And guess what? Some of the players, I am retired. I want to do nothing.
Well,
So are we. We're all retired. Yeah.
We have basically 10 core people.
Mm-hmm.
We have several people that have, like Matt is a CPA, but the way you do your books is entirely different than the way we do our books.
Right.
We don't do transfers.
Mm-hmm.
It's simple. But yes, we do ask. Hopefully someday someone will raise their hand and say yes.
Yes. And we've been trying to
As-
get them.
as-
We've been asking for years. And Ron, we've asked you. Yeah.
well, I just hope that you do understand, I'm not saying that in that snide or snippy way that you hear where, why don't you run? I'm saying seriously.
Yeah.
It would be good to get the experience.
Yep. Right, right,
Yeah,
right,
because then you would have more information.
right.
But anyway, just,
We do have an ace in our hand, and that is, we have a man who was retired FDU athletic director. I think he was the coach and the principal of the high school for football. And we've enticed him to join our group, and so he just recently joined us, and has begun to, hope you do it at time, has begun to go through the budget and make some observations. So that's something. Well, we asked him to serve, and he said, nope. We have several, well, to my knowledge, we have 2 retired superintendents, a half a dozen retired high school principals, and one from a vocational school. We have gobs and gobs of retired teachers. And then there's folks like us, we don't, like us, we don't know any better, we just raise our hand and say, what needs to be done?
Right, right.
all right,
Yeah.
just-
And, yeah,
We'd like to be able to have some.
right. And besides this, I know, Mr. DeGeorge, we welcome you to come in for a meeting. Right, we emailed you, yeah. So anytime, any good suggestions, we appreciate. Thank you, thank you. Any,
Just go to the record, I'm sorry. So Dr. Clark and Mr. George have always had an open door for us.
yes,
We've always taken the private hand and explained things out, like real terms in the school district. We appreciate that.
great. That's why we renewed her contract. All right, anyone else in the public
Can
would
always
like,
join
go
us.
ahead, Matt, please.
Oh, cool.
Paul Dresser, 70 Harbor Ridge Drive. Last week, Mr. DeGeorge said the average cost per student was $16,500, roughly.
Right.
It's Do you, by chance internally, do you break regular versus special needs down to find out if there's a big disparity there? Because I know we did that up north.
Sure. You know that there's no, you could see that there's no, in New Jersey, no actual DOE required special ed. We do, when we release the final budget, we'll give you some tuition information for regular ed students as well as for special ed students. You'll be able to get some idea then. But it's, everything in special ed depends upon IEP, and it depends on services that the child needs in the least restrictive environment. So we do everything we can, but right now I don't have a number for you, gen ed versus special ed, that I can share, but when the final budget gets released, you'll be able to see some tuition information. And if you want, when that happens, give me a call and we can talk through some of that.
Okay. I'm assuming it's more.
I mean, it depends. It really depends on a lot of things. If a child is required by rule and what's best for the child, right? Because that has to be most important. To attend a private school, they're not cheap, true, and other factors to be considered, but that's the world in which we live, and we're obligated by law and, ethically and morally to do what's right for that class of students. So it depends. It depends.
All right, thank you.
Probably yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure, you're welcome.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay.
I'm going to do without the mask.
Okay.
That's okay, because I see you have yours off.
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Matt Golembeski, 47 Arboridge Drive, Seabreeze. I've been trying to get together with, the school board and things like that during this COVID, and that has been a very, very disruptive thing. And I'm not blaming anybody for anything, but COVID is the primary, and that's turned our lives upside down. There was, a while ago, I had suggested consolidation of schools because enrollment just keeps on going down. And there's rumors that the township wants to build a new municipal building. I don't know how true that is, but to me, it's just true? True. Mm-hmm. It's true. Because my suggestion is, since enrollment's going down, and I looked at the capacity for the Lacey Road School, and
Forked River School?
Yes, Forked River, yes, it's on Lacey Road.
Yes.
That, in my mind, that would be a perfect place for the municipality to set up their facility. They could modify it. There could be room in there for like senior activities and things like that. And it would avoid the cost of putting up a new building, and also to shed some operating costs off of your shoulders. So I'm just I'm throwing that idea out, and if anybody wants to get back to me on that, I'd appreciate it.
Okay.
But I think it's a money saver. Right now, Lacey, is faced with a couple dark issues down the road with the power plant and the taxes that they'll lose from there. And, eventually it's going to go back onto the residents, and the taxes are going to go up. And maybe possibly this is a way to cushion some of that increase. Mm-hmm. Okay?
Yep. Thank you. And since we can't talk about that right now because it's
Yeah,
a
I
budget,
understand.
but Mr. DeGeorge and Dr. Clark, they will definitely set up a meeting with you and sit down and
Yeah.
discuss it.
I got a lot of paper there ready.
Okay.
I understand that, and it's
Okay, perfect.
just a comment.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Board members, any more comments? Okay.
Did we pick a date yet for the gathering we were going to do for revenue, to try to bring in revenue? Remember? You wanted to set up a
You
date.
said you didn't want to make a meeting yet, but you were going to try to look at the calendar.
Isn't that what we're talking about tonight, for June? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I don't know if you want a meeting date now.
Yeah, so we're definitely,
So-
I mean, it's a great idea, number one.
Right.
An important topic, number two.
Yeah.
We're just
So
trying to-
Mrs. Claus, I think to start that off, what we're going to do is we're picking a date to have the finance chairperson, Mr. Scanlon, myself, and you sit down with the two of them and start this discussion.
Oh,
Because
okay.
right now, because of strategic planning, and in strategic planning was revenue and bringing in money, so we're not getting that final report until June 14th. So we're going to meet with you first
Oh,
to get it, and I think there's a date.
Yes, I just can't
Okay,
remember what-
so we're going to talk to Mr. Scanlon and you with the date, just
Okay.
to get it started, okay? But we do want to see, I don't know what's in strategic planning yet,
Okay, no problem.
right, Mr., you're not finished with the financial part of it?
Not quite,
Okay,
we're ready.
all right,
Pretty
so
close.
yes, it's working, okay?
yes.
Thank you.
Sure, can I also mention, Mrs. McAvoy, that we received no comments or questions via the Google platform today?
I forget that every time. Okay, all right, seeing no more, Mr.
Well,
Scanlon?
just reminding the board members, this was the opportunity to ask any questions, or if you have any opposition, or if you have any problems with the budget, this would be the time to bring them forward.
Well, everyone knows I have a problem with one thing, but right now, there's no money. I would like to see an increase in substitute pay, because we are one of the lowest districts with substitute pay. But I realize that right now, we can't fit it in, but if there is any breakage over the summer, then that would be a high priority, because it's getting harder and harder to get substitutes in our district. Yes, okay. Yeah.
This is a public meeting, and it's
Yeah.
about the budget, and if anybody had any problems or
Yeah.
where it was going to be major concern, this would be the time to bring it up.
And I just want to thank Ed for bringing this idea up, because I think this is a great forum, and I think we should probably do this, not probably, I think we
Every
should
year.
do this every year.
Yes.
Because it's, the way the sunshine law and all that has really tightened up where we can't talk freely anymore like we used to be able to. This is the best alternative.
Yes.
So Ed, thank you for bringing this together, and,
Thank you.
yeah.
Yes,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Scanlon, thank you. In our quest for transparency, yes, thank
Just see
you.
right through me.
Yes. Okay,
Ms.
thank
McAvoy,
you.
Can I say something real quick?
Of course, Mr.
Oh,
Polino.
thank you. I just, I just wanted known to our folks in the audience and the virtual audience, and I'm sure like every other board member here, although I have no questions tonight, when this proposed budget was put out by Mr. DeGeorge, I know myself and Mrs. McAvoy, we went over this budget with a fine-tooth comb, and we expressed our concerns with Mr. DeGeorge, and there was actually quite a bit of cuts that was made from some of the budget's line items. So although I sit here with no comment or questions about it, I already had my questions and so forth. So this wasn't just a rubber stamped proposal that was put out and we just said, yeah, go ahead with it. That wasn't the case. We went line by line, and I know I had a lot of questions. There was some concerns on increases, which I know within the athletic budget there was quite a few increases, but some of them were not our increases. It's third-party agencies that we deal with that we have to have. Just to let everybody know that, and I'm sure people to my left and right all did the same thing. So it's not like we just rubber stamped this thing. And I know I went through it very closely, each line item, so.
And we asked a lot of questions last week, too, that if we had any, we asked them, so that's why I think we're so quiet tonight.
Right.
Well, I
So-
just have a comment. for
Go ahead,
Rita.
Mrs. DeSenza.
Well, I'm just worried about what Chapter 44 is going to do to us in the future. That's a big unknown. It's like an abyss, actually.
We're waiting, right, waiting to see. Okay, great meeting. Thank you very much for coming out. Yes? Can you please, Mr. Lytle he can't record if we're not on the microphone. He can't hear.
It doesn't refer to the budget, but thank you last week for going to the meeting and voicing your opinion.
Oh, you're
on
welcome.
the recreational marijuana.
Thank
It
you.
was another great thing. and it
Thank
helped
you.
us, I think. Thank you.
And hopefully the whole board will go out on the 13th and show our support again. And hopefully, I think we made a good statement. So thank you very much. Okay, I'd like to adjourn this meeting.
I'll move,
Motion.
second, move, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, aye.
Right.